I have been waiting. I have been waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to go after a Canadian on defamation. Someone in the YouTube community, not like some obscure defamation case. We've heard a couple news stories about defamation in Canada over the years. It's different than the United States. It's very different than the United States. And we've got a big one here because it involves the P word. And I don't mean anything other than pedophile and pedophilia. Allegations of pedophilia from iDubbbz to H3H3. I think actually from Destiny originally, and then republished by iDubbbz against H3H3. And when you know it's false, it's worse in the United States. Canada doesn't give a shit if you know it's false or not. Defamation in Canada is very different. And there are some Canadian streamers out there who have habits of defaming people. And right now, if there isn't a fat Jabba the Hutt fake preacher pissing his little panties along with his little coke fiend, pretend reformed, pretend recovered duet, if they aren't shitting themselves over the possibility of defamation lawsuits starting to hit Canadian YouTubers from American streamers, they will be soon, I'm guessing. Look, I don't give a shit about the Kino Casino at all, but they talk a lot of shit about a lot of people and they say a lot of stuff. And they're in Canada. Canada likes plaintiffs in defamation cases. The United States likes defendants in defamation cases. The fact that they haven't been sued is pretty wild, honestly, because the shit that they say, the shit that they have said about people that is outright false is strong. But that's okay. I'm sure if PPP starts leaking, he'll just shove Andy right up his ass and plug the gap, so to speak. But we're not talking about them. Just a little thinking about what they're probably worried about if they have any awareness at all. And I know Anissa, iDubbbz's husband, Anissa has already basically threatened PPP. Already kind of threatened PPP and Andy Worski and shut them down, like shut down the commentary about them right away. And look, everybody forgets that YouTube and commentary as a form of entertainment, like in the way that it's being done now, is still really new. You know, entertainment lawsuits, defamation lawsuits amongst news stations and all that, that's all been fleshed out for decades. You know, we might have some adjustments here, adjustments there, etc. But the Wild West of being able to say whatever you want about people online isn't going to hold up. It won't. It won't. And people are waiting for someone with money to test the waters. Right now, Ethan Klein is on a tear of testing waters with money and law. And he's about to test some Canadian waters against iDubbbz. So here's what we have. We have an American being defamed by someone in Canada. Now, your choice of jurisdiction in any legal matter always matters. One, they have to have jurisdiction over you. Two, you want to find the jurisdiction that's the friendliest for your claim or your defense, as it may be. In this case, Canada will have jurisdiction over Ian because he lives there, assuming he lives in Alberta, Calgary, or Alberta, or whatever the fuck it is. Assuming he lives in that judicial jurisdiction in Canada. I don't quite know how their system works, but we'll get through it. They'll be able to exercise jurisdiction over him for the lawsuit itself. Ethan Klein lives in LA, but he can voluntarily submit himself to the jurisdiction of the Canadian court, and he can claim damages in Canada. He doesn't just have to claim American damages. He can claim damages in Canada. His show is big enough. I'm sure he can present that there's a Canadian audience that's significant for H3H3. Most platforms, either streaming or podcast platforms, have demographic info available for your audience, and you can see where people come from who are tuning into your show. And when you have as many viewers as they do, you're going to have a significant portion of them from other countries than just the United States. So this is the first thing. He can go to Canada and say, I am being damaged there by the claims of iDubbbz. What makes this claim a little bit stronger, iDubbbz and Ethan used to be friends, right? Like they were friends, maybe produced some shows together, etc. iDubbbz has allegedly been to his house. In fact, he talked about it. And so in that, he gets a little bit of a bolstered credibility. He gets to have special knowledge. He can say, this is what I observed at the house. I saw conditions. And that is what he did. That is what he did. He said it was a dirty house. He said that CPS, or the kids would be better placed in foster care than with the Kleins. Now, that may or may not be true. I don't know the Kleins. I don't care. I'm not involved in any of this. So it doesn't matter to me. But that matters a lot to them. Claims that he molests his children. If he doesn't, that's one of the most heinous and horrifying things that you can claim. As a parent, the love, affection, emotion, and investment you put in your children. I don't mean monetary investment. I mean the emotional investment. Your hopes and aspirations for them, everything. For someone to come in and betray that, for someone to come in and make such a horrific suggestion without it being true is, I believe that's a death penalty. Personally, people online are going to say random stuff. They'll say whatever. I'm sure there's a bunch of people saying the same thing about Ethan Klein. That doesn't really matter though, because this isn't a bunch of people. This is a person with a huge audience, but more importantly, a claim of personal knowledge, a claim of a close personal connection. That accusation is horrendous and obviously damaging. It's damaging to his brand. It's damaging to his mental health. It's damaging to his family, to his reputation, all of these things. And so you have a defamation suit. In the United States, you have to prove a couple things. You have to prove that a statement was made by the defendant about the plaintiff to a third party, that the statement was false, that the statement caused harm, and that the comment was made with the requisite level of fault. Now, Ethan Klein is a public figure, so that requisite level of fault is called actual malice, which means that he would have to prove knowledge of the falsity or reckless disregard for obtaining the truth. Throw all that out the window. That's all First Amendment, baby. That's American. That's American. That is not Canadian. Canadian law, you don't even have to prove falsity for defamation claims in Canada. I don't know how that could possibly play out. Like, I don't quite understand how you can have a defamation claim where you don't have to prove that it was false, but you don't. You have to prove harm to reputation or economic harm. You have to prove that the statement was made, that is identifiable about the person, right? They don't have First Amendment speech protections. Okay. The other thing, an American suing in Canada can enforce a judgment in Canada. Canadian courts will enforce that judgment. A Canadian suing an American may not be able to enforce that judgment. If an American is sued in Canada, they are afforded the First Amendment protections on the enforcement of the judgment. So if an American gets a judgment against them in Canada, but it would have been protected by the First Amendment in the United States, the United States courts won't enforce the Canadian judgment. But the Canadian courts will enforce a judgment that's made in the United States. This isn't an issue here, though, because Ethan Klein is in Canada. He's making the suit in Canada, and suing there will allow him to enforce the judgment against the Canadian resident, no matter what. Why is this important? Canadian defamation law is extremely plaintiff-friendly. IDUB says he's worried about how this will affect the commentary community, the Canadian commentary community. You don't get to just run around making claims like this against people without being able to back it up. If you're Canadian, you may not get to make claims about it at all. This is a critical case. A critical case. If Ethan Klein, as an American, is able to prevail on his defamation claims against a Canadian commenter in Canada, the veil of protection for speech is pierced for anyone in Canada. Anyone in Canada at that point who does commentary, who talks about other people, who makes claims that may not be true or may be true, but are overtly damaging to the reputation of the person, is at risk. I can think of a couple people that really need to be careful with what they say. And a lot of things that they've already said would violate these rules. This is a floodgate lawsuit, depending on how it's handled. If Ethan Klein hires good lawyers, there's a lot of money going into Canada for people saying shit about Americans that Americans may not want said. If those things tip, if they tip the keys of defamation, look out, because you're fucked. Mephisto says 3-letter people like PPP. T-Rex Travel says not PPP. PPP and Worski, if they're not looking at this case going, yeah, buddy, fuck. What do you do? What do you do? They say defamatory shit about all sorts of people. Mephisto says Jeremy is already sharpening the knives. They've got an open feud going with Jeremy. That's a person who may be interested in something like that. It could really impact them, and there's no repair, right? Like, it's not like they can they can't shove the toothpaste back in. They can't unsay what's been said so far. I know people personally who believe that they have been defamed by PPP and Andy. Andy and PPP have tried to guise their show as like a ridiculous commentary or ridiculous commentary, parody, et cetera, et cetera. Those protections don't exist in Canada. I can't remember. It was a couple years ago. A stand-up comedian got hit with a defamation suit for telling a joke on stage. And he's like, it was obviously parody. This is like a stand-up comedian. It's a stand-up comedy set. Didn't matter. He got blitzed. This is a threshold issue. I can't wait to see what happens. I cannot wait to see what happens. But lawsuits are still expensive. There's all sorts of shit involved in them that are other deterring factors, right? Like the stress of going through a lawsuit is very expensive to have a lawsuit in another country. Like you may have to travel there, et cetera. So it's not like everybody's going to suddenly sue and everything's going to go and collapse and everybody's going to lose, etc. It's not going to happen that way. But if he kicks open the door and puts a... Here's the thing. If this law firm that H3 hired develops a template or a formula for going after Canadian streamers for significant damages awards, that's when the floodgates open. That's when people are really fucked. Because if they put together an easy way to do these lawsuits where they can reduce the amount of costs that they incur because they've already laid the bricks on the road, so to speak, all they have to do is drive over it again and again and again and again, and they will rack up W's. Canadian law is not in favor of being rude. I know I'd be worried if I were Canadian. This realm of entertainment, of commentary on YouTube and Rumble and stuff like that, this is still kind of the Wild West. It's a different type of entertainment. It has different cost-benefit analyses going towards it. But when you get up to shows that make millions of dollars, and trust me, I mean, I would think, if Ethan Klein is pulling $15K a night, if his show doesn't make $1 million a year, it makes $1 million every other year. That's just, if it doesn't, I'd be shocked. If it doesn't, I'd be shocked. You start getting into millions of dollars and you start getting into, you know, the type of accusations and allegations that can cause harm to someone. People will play for keeps real quick. And because it's not about jokes and entertainment. And especially when you're talking about, I mean, you go after someone and their children like that, you better be fucking right about it. With that, let's just go ahead with another thing real quick. American defamation we talked a little bit about the public figure status and knowledge of the falsity. It would be really stupid if someone who maybe has property in America, maybe comes to America from time to time, but even if they're in a different country, Canada, Mexico, Nicaragua, Honduras, etc. A lot of these countries have something called comity with the United States where they'll enforce a judgment. They'll enforce a judgment against someone. What you shouldn't do, probably, is make a claim of sexual immorality against someone and then follow it up with, I knew that was false. I just wanted to see if their wife would care. If you just admitted knowingly falsifying a claim of sexual morality in an attempt to harm a domestic relationship, you've admitted to actual malice, you fucking retard. But no one wants to sue the poor. But I digress. It's a weird world. YouTube's a weird world because you get, most of the time, going after any of this stuff doesn't have a return that is worth the investment. Most of the time, you know, you're not talking about a large amount of damage happening to someone from a false statement. Like, there's some, and any matters to some degree, but you're not talking about a ton of damage on this stuff. But there are some issues that people really care about. And there are some issues that might be worth suing over, as long as the target of the lawsuit has anything to take. Once lawyers start figuring out how to do this on the cheap, I don't mean on the cheap, but on the place where it's affordable for a normal person, it's practicable for the damages that are happening, this world of online commentary will probably get pared down pretty quickly. I just want you to respect me as a man. Can you imagine texting someone, I want you to respect me as a man? The internet's fucking weird, guys. It's broken. Do you know, like, I've probably just provoked like 4 hours of squealing and raging around a little pigsty. Just by saying that. Ah! That all started because I said someone might have low testosterone. Turns out they do. They proved it straight out the gate. How dare you say I got low testosterone? Calm down, Hedy Lamarr. Don't bring the sob into this. Don't do that. That's mean. She likes that sob. Anyone who would cause damage to that sob knowing her is really gay. So I am the wrecker of homes, right? We know this. I'm the destroyer of relationships. And I do so with gusto and usually without knowing about it. So a friend of mine by the name of Ice Dancer was involved with another friend of mine by the name of Mersh. I may have had something to do with it, but as Mersh says, less than people think. Less than people think. But I just hope them get like connected, like not like inserted connect, like connected to message each other. That's all. That's all I did. That's it. And for that service, I charge a pittance. No, I'm just kidding. No, I just helping out a friend. That's all. But that had, we'll say, a tumultuous event the other day. A tumultuous event. And if you don't know the story, very briefly, Ice Dancer left merch with this guy named Kevin Spaghetti or something. This Kevin guy's a wrestling YouTuber because those exist. That's real. Ice Dancer went with him. I don't know anything about this. I make the love on the spectrum joke with Valhalla. And then I see all this stuff going on and I see my friend Ice getting dragged online. So I just send her a message. How you doing? Here's a link to me telling one of the funniest jokes I've ever heard. That message, that message is what destroyed the Kevin Spaghetti loving relationship that he had with Ice Dancer. That's what did it. It was literally just a time-stamped link to me saying the love on the spectrum joke. That's all. He's like, message from Nick Ricada. Message from Nick Ricada. Look, it's the most innocuous and innocent message that could possibly. It's like, hey, look, I told this funny joke about watching autisms fall in love. Because I love that show, unironically. I love Love on the Spectrum. Yeah, that's how that goes. That's how that went. That was a star-crossed, destined forever relationship. And I came and trounced it with a joke. Bob Tubed over on YouTube says, instead of messaging random women on the internet, have you thought about practicing your driving? Man, I'm a misunderstood fellow and maligned, much maligned. Look, part of my job, part of what I do involves talking to a whole bunch of people, because a whole bunch of people out there are either potential interviews, they have information, they help you network, they have a story, they send you things. So I talk to tons of people. To me, it's not weird to talk to men or women on the internet. You can talk weird to men or women on the internet. Like that's a separate thing. You can do that. That's up to you and yours. You figure that out. But to me, it's not strange to talk to people on the internet. It's not strange to check up on people that you've talked to when they're going through something public and just say, hey, like, what's up? For some people, that's apparently wrong and bad. I've had a lot of people make recommendations. Hey, why don't you just not talk to people, not talk to XYZ? And it's like, because I didn't get here by doing what all these other, like what these recommendations are. I didn't get to where I am that way. I'm not going to do that now. I'm not going to do what less successful people do. That's not helpful to me. I don't get that. But no, people have their own ways of doing everything. And, they have their own limits within, the bounds of their relationships, within the bounds of their personal morality, etc. I'm not here to tell anybody how to do anything. I'm here to say simply, if you are in this business and you do talk to a lot of people, you have to have high trust. The way you have high trust is by doing what is known and expected from the people who need to trust you. And I'm not talking about anything. I'm talking about interpersonal relationships and how they interact with the online world. Look, I will talk to people online who are men or women. I'm just me. If I'm talking to someone, I'm not going to sleep with them. Here's the thing that I don't get. Here's the thing. Why am I getting flack for talking to women when I am quite obviously a homosexual? I think talking to men is much more dangerous. Luther Morgan is an obsessive weirdo. Let's see. The community built around quote unquote lol cows does not realize at all, seemingly, that they fit the description of themselves. Like they fit the description of lol cows themselves as they define it. They talk about people who are reactive, who are obsessive, compulsive about something or subject, and then criticism, defense, and they get very, very defensive and insular. It's pretty interesting. And it is what it is. It's a part of the internet. It's fine. People are allowed to do this. There's no one stopping them. Nobody gives a shit at the end of the day. That being said, this guy Luther has been writing a lot about me, which I guess I'm flattered. A lot of it's wrong. A lot of it's right. I don't know. I'm not going to go through each point here and there. There's no real purpose to doing so. But he did a video. He did a video on me, a psychoanalysis video about me and my oppositional defiant disorder. This is the problem with autism. Like, not real autism, internet autism. This is a problem with social nonconformity, social anxiety, mixed with obsessiveness, mixed with time, I guess. But you have these people who come along and they don't understand that when Nick Rekieta says he's got oppositional defiant disorder, that's a cheeky way of me saying, I'm not going to do whatever you say or whatever you want. I'll probably do the opposite. It's not oppositional defiant disorder, dummies. You're not in authority over me. You can't, there's nothing for me to defy. You don't have a say in what I do, other than to just, make a request or whatever. And so the fact that, this guy did a serious psychoanalysis of it was very funny to me. I wanted to watch it, and I was going to watch it with you guys. But he took it down when he realized a critical error in his analysis, in that I'm not a child. And that children have oppositional defiant disorder. Adults really don't. And the reason is adults don't have a persistent authority figure over them like a child does. And so they don't really have something to oppose and defy. You can be defiant against the world or a boss, but adults tend to have agency. They can walk away from their authorities pretty simply. I mean, even to the point where like you could even try and evade the governmental authorities. I don't recommend it, but he kind of missed that in his analysis because he is ultimately like a weirdo. I don't know how else to say it. He is the Kiwi Farm syndrome made manifest. And that is this idea that one, that they're a monolith and that only things that they say that they get correct matter as far as history goes, because they'll say a million things. One thing will happen to be right. And then they'll be like, aha, see, we called it. It's like, well, we didn't. One person did. The other thing is they manufacture a fact and it becomes a repeated fact and then it's self-citing. Kiwi Farms is a gossip forum. They cite back to their own gossip all the time. This is fine. That's what gossip is. And people can do that. They can gossip all they want. The problem is when you start to try and lay it out as something factual or something erudite and studied. If you start to do that, then you run into problems when you don't understand jokes because you start taking them as real. This is something I tried to tell Josh Moon about. This is what made Josh Moon mad at me, was actually this conversation. I was like, well, you guys don't understand like basic social cues and human interaction. You have a problem discerning when events occurred unless it's specifically laid out. But other people in natural conversation can figure out when someone's telling a story that's recent versus a story that's very old. Like they can just kind of gather what's going on there through context of the storytelling. You guys can't do that. And the problem then is you're self-reinforcing, and it's like a game of telephone that's circular and involves probably cum jars full of My Little Ponies. This is what made Josh mad as kind of the basis of that conversation. He didn't like being told that, even though I was giving him in real time. I was giving him example after example after example. I was like, this thing that you guys say is true is not true. It wasn't about me either. It's about someone else. It was like, I have personal knowledge that this isn't true. I can prove it if you really want. Didn't happen. But you guys swear that it did. And that's not a problem on a gossip site. It is a problem when you're trying to legitimize the gossip into a record keeping or archival forum. Like Josh has these delusions of what he's going to do with Kiwi Farms and how it's saving speech in the West and white women and all that stuff. And boy, do they try and save women and children. They're the biggest Karens on the planet, and it's great. But anyway, this is a problem with Luther Morgan. He didn't get the fact that I'm making a joke when I say I have oppositional defiant disorder, just never been diagnosed. Yeah, even if I was diagnosed, they would undiagnose me around the time I turned 18. But it just is a cheeky way to say, I don't really listen to other people very well. I have my own way of doing things, and it's done pretty well for me. Some setbacks on occasion. But by and large, if you take my 44 years on this planet, about 41 to 42 of them are pretty damn good. Then there's a rocky patch in there. I was going to do that as a member show, but because it's best practice to download things that you want to talk about, just in case they get taken down, because it's best practice, my diagnosed by a psychiatrist, currently oppositional defiant disorder that I definitely have, that prevented me from actually downloading the video. It wasn't my own choice to not download it. It was the syndrome and the sickness that I have 100% been diagnosed with recently and previously. Definitely. That's all happened. I hurt. I am in pain. A decent amount of it still. And I assume it's from the car accident. I guess I've had tests and scans and haven't identified anything specific, but probably just, battered up and bruised on the inside. And I am uncomfortable. I don't know how long of a show I'll do tonight. That has been a primary, it's been very demotivating. It's been very demotivating to sit and sitting down hurts after a little bit. It doesn't take very long either. It's my lower left abdomen. It's under my lungs. And I also, I get short of breath, or not short of breath. It feels like I'm trying to breathe against having a log or something sitting on my chest. So it's, I'm really tired all the time, and I'm in a decent amount of pain. I assume my body's just, going through the healing process. Hold on. Mm-hmm. Hey, Nick, does your docs consider you might have a ruptured diaphragm? I had a bunch of scans done on my chest. I had my abdomen in general. I've had a couple CT scans. I had some x-rays. I had ultrasounds. That said, those don't always show soft tissue stuff. I do have an abdominal MRI coming up. So there is, without getting too far into it, I had a little bit of a jolt yesterday. There is an abnormal result on a CT scan that merits a little further inspection. And for a bit, I was kind of terrified of what that meant. But I've done a bunch more reading, and I'm much more relaxed about it now. I think everything's going to be fine. But for a bit, there was an abnormality that could be something really bad. No, the doctor doesn't seem to think it is, but I need an MRI on it. I don't think I have a ruptured diaphragm. The doctor basically said, as far as my lungs go, when you have an impact like that, shit just gets compressed and pushed around and whatever. And she basically said, just make sure you breathe deeply through everything and just kind of just have to let things heal. So again, I've been just exceedingly tired lately. And I think it's just my body healing up the little shit that got kind of fucked up during the auto accident. I have employed the services of an attorney for that whole thing. I mean, without getting too much into it, as I said before, it's completely the fault of the other driver, and there's some other issues there that'll make a case. But I have employed the services of an attorney to take care of that for me. So let's say we are very knowledgeable about law. Do you feel as helpless as we do when we hire an esquire? I hate having an attorney on many of these issues. The deal that we got for my criminal case was good. It's a good deal. Especially because I did it. I was guilty, right? That is good. The fight over the warrant is bad. It was poorly done. When I hired my attorney, I laid out what I wanted to happen on the warrant. I said, I want to hit them with a 60+ page motion, going after the warrant, because if we win on that, we win. And there were a lot of issues with that warrant. One of the key ones, and the fact that this wasn't in the motion and wasn't fought, frustrates me. The judge who signed the warrant was the judge I spoke bad about in the video that the warrant used to justify a search. That should not have happened. that judge was also subsequently disciplined for being vindictive about people that said something she didn't like. She ended up specifically recusing herself from one of my cases that she was assigned to. I think the criminal case, or maybe it was the Montegraph case or something. It was the Montegraph case, I believe. She ended up recusing herself from that case without saying anything. Why did she recuse herself? Don't know. However, that was at the time when she was recusing herself from cases with people that she didn't like. She just recused herself. My lawyers should have fought the warrant. They should have fought the warrant. That judge should not have signed that warrant with that video being the basis, because that video said that if you wring her out, whiskey pours out of her vagina. She should not have signed that warrant. But my lawyers didn't attack that. Why? Don't know. But you know what I do know? Is that I was sitting there wanting to shoot myself in the head during the entire warrant fight. There were many other things to go after. Instead, they chose 2 issues, and they didn't do the greatest job of it. I like my lawyers. They haven't done the best job ever. But at the same time, I did do it. I did possess the drugs. Like that was the whole thing. That was the biggest problem with it. So not much you can do about that. But sitting there wondering why like something's being done, why something's being asked, watching them do, them being any lawyer who you've employed, do examination and cross-examination. I want to kill myself the whole time. I'm like, what the fuck are you? What question? I can't talk about the specifics of what happened last Friday, right, a week ago, when I had the hearing on my restraining order. I'm still under a sequestration order, even though that doesn't make sense. I'm working on that, by the way. But my lawyer for that hearing is not the lawyer that I hired. My other lawyer is out due to a medical issue. So I have this lawyer to take over, and he is not great at examination and cross-examination. He is not great at it at all. And I think he's been a little overwhelmed with some other stuff as he's covering for the files of his co-counsel. That being said, I think he did adequately on Friday. I think he functionally got to a decent enough place, but it was infuriating to watch, like to be stuck under there. That was horrifying. Brian Landon Test Stream says, how do you feel about Moody revealing you violated your gag order by emailing him details of the HRO hearing? Well, Moody didn't reveal that because that's not a thing that happened. So I'm not sure what he said or anything like that. Someone sent me a link and was like, here's where he said it. And I watched it and I didn't see him say that. Moody's source was a guy named Boots on the Ground. If I'm not mistaken, that guy was actually doxxed. So like, that's not me at all. I didn't email anybody. First of all, who the fuck uses email? Second of all, I didn't email anybody anything. I think Pretty Antisocial had asked me if I could give any details while I was at lunch. And I said, no, I can't give any details. That's it. That's all the communication that was there. So, I don't know. But Moody, if you want to see what happened in court, you could go watch last week's This Little Piggy, which is on Who Are These Podcast channels. I can't say what's true or false or exaggerated. I can't verify anything in it. I'm not allowed to talk about it. Everybody else in the world, well, except for the other parties, Aaron and Melton. Melton wasn't there, and our lawyers. They can't talk about it either. Doesn't make sense. Everybody else in the world can talk about it. It was an open courtroom for people to be in there. I think there are 3 people now who have talked about what happened in that courtroom. You can go watch or listen to those reports. I can't verify what's right or wrong in them. I can't talk about it. But you can go listen to firsthand reports of it. Those are not from me. I would love to give it to you. I would love to tell you all about it. I'm hoping they videoed it. I think the world should see it. But yeah, he didn't reveal that I was his source because I'm not his source. I don't know what he said. It doesn't really matter. Brian Landon Test Stream says, this little piggy sweeps for Ricada. Okay. If that's what you want, go watch all of the reports. Like, go cover all of them. It's fine. Like, I don't care. I know exactly what happened in court. It was a fucking riot. I had a blast. I would do it again. I wish I could talk about it with you guys because I thought it was really funny. Should do a co-stream with Runkle on the CAD Cucks. I haven't talked to Runkle in a while. I feel like I might have upset him at his fundraiser, which I didn't mean, like I really didn't mean to. I thought it was funny. I thought what happened was hilarious. And I was just kind of being me, but that may have upset him. I don't know. I'm not putting that on him. Please don't bother him about it. If Runkle wants to talk, I love that guy. I would talk to him whenever. This subject would be great to talk to him about. But I try to be respectful. And if I've done something to upset someone, I don't want to push on it. I've apologized to him personally for what happened. Like, it's like, I didn't mean anything by it. I thought it was funny how it happened. So I apologized. I'm pretty sure I said I'm sorry. Hold me now. Hard for me to say I'm sorry. Anyway, I'll maybe reach out to him and just see, but I don't want to push anything. I have no hatred in my heart for almost anybody. The list is really short. But, and if I upset someone or whatever, and they need a little bit of time off from me, okay, I'm fine with that. That's an okay thing. Now, to be clear, just because people get things twisted, I don't know that that's true. I just haven't talked to him in a while. Please name those you don't like, though, so we all know. Well, I mean, I think people know that I, have a personal issue with Aaron Imholt, right? Like, I don't think I'm ever going to like that person again. I don't think they want me to like them either. So that's fine. And it'll be nice. It'll be nice when we're no longer legally entangled. That'll be great. Because I think both of us would be happy to just ignore the other person. But we kind of have this long-standing legal issue that's been going on for 11 months and has at least another 3 to go, and another 11 weeks. So it's like, until that's resolved, I don't really foresee either of us completely shutting down talking about the other person. But I try to keep it very minimal. I don't really, like I said, most of the time I don't have anything at all to say. He did say something that was absolute bullshit today specifically, which I wasn't going to bring up, but now that you mention it, he claimed that I hit April. Really? You want to do that? That's what you want to do? I have never, ever hit a woman. Ever. And I never would. I would not hit back. I'm not saying other people shouldn't. I wouldn't. That said, he did hit her. And he squeezed her hard enough to make her stop breathing. He physically restrained her to the point where she was screaming while I was on the phone with her. You don't really want to do this, please. This is not the route that anyone wants to go down. But to try and claim that I did what you did is not really a couth position to take. So, yeah. He said today that he didn't ever hit her, but he should have. He's a good person like that. But yeah, and you know what? He can say dumb shit like that all he wants. But I'm sorry. I would never, ever lay a violent hand on her. Ever. Or any other woman that I know at all. I'm free to smack some chick who's like, threatening me or my family or something like that. I would have no qualms about that. But someone I know, I think there are other ways to deal with that. We know he did it because he said it on his own show. On his own show, he went through pressing his forehead into her head hard enough to make it hurt and squeezing her hard enough to make her stop breathing. That's his description. It's perfectly consistent with what she told me and what was in the text messages to his ex-wife. He knows he did that. Nice Guy Merch says, hey, Nick, Aaron was glazing me on his show earlier today. Careful with glaze around that man, Merch. So I'm sad to tell you I'm not officially a towboy. I think you mean now officially a towboy. I'm very easily swayed. No, I knew always. I knew that you would turn. I knew that was coming. So I'm not surprised. Thanks for letting me know, though. I do appreciate that. But yeah, be careful with glaze around him. It disappears at random.